Hello everybody and welcome back to another soft-spoken video. I hope you're all feeling very cozy today, taking care of yourself. The weather calls for it, at least in the northern hemisphere, at least here in London. Today is a very grey day, and yeah, I've put on a bit of a cozy background. I've got my tea. And yeah, I asked you a few days ago on the community tab if you wanted me to talk about some of my favorite horror movies, and most of you said yes. So thank you for enabling me to yap about my favorite horror movies. I'm a big horror fan and I've been watching a lot of horror movies this month, so definitely, looking forward to my letterbox recap at the beginning of next month. But without further ado, I've already filmed this video 2 days ago and it was 50 minutes long, pre-edits, but my laptop is way too old and so I can't really put a 50 minutes file to edit. It will just keep crashing and stuff like that, so I'm gonna try and keep it shorter. I'm already 1 minute in, but I think I'm doing okay. But yeah, we have 10 movies to go through. These are not my 10 best movies of life. These are just 10 of my favorite horror movies. I don't think I could be able to say for sure this is number 10, this is number 9, this is whatever, or even say these are the best 10, basically. Hope that makes sense. But yeah, I don't think I need to say anything else. I cut my hair, which I'm very happy about. And yeah, let's begin with favorite horror movie number 1. So, one of my favorite horror movies is Creep, a 2004 movie directed by Patrick Bryce, in collaboration with Mark Duplass, and they're both the actors in the movie. I remember finding Creep just like perusing Netflix years ago, and yeah, so basically this movie follows a videographer. It's a found footage movie, important to note, but it follows a videographer that accepts a job offer on Craigslist, and he goes and meet this guy that wants a bit of a video diary of his last few days, because he's not his last few days, but he's going to die, I think, of cancer, and so he just wants a videographer to, capture a bit of a video diary of just like his thoughts and, last thoughts and messages to his family, let's say. But of course things go south, things get very weird, and things degenerate from there. I just love movies that are like kind of friends project type of thing. So as I said, these two guys are Patrick Bryce is the director. The story is written by both Patrick and Mark. They are the two actors in the movie. I just love that indie, like, simplistic approach, but also just like the friendship behind it, and just like the I don't know, teaming up with your friend, creating something beautiful. I'm imagining low budget. I mean, it's found footage, so it has that, grainy, not super HD film quality, plus the shots are very, of course, wobbly, because it's found footage. It's like this guy filming this other guy. So Creep is great. Great, just like weird atmosphere. There's only one kind of horrible scene, but it's not even that gory. Everything else is just like unsettling in it, and it's that feeling of basically, what the hell, why did I trust this person, this stranger I shouldn't have, kind of vibe. But also now I'm stuck in the middle of nowhere with him. So this was movie number 1. Moving on to a completely different movie, higher budget, higher just like spectacle and everything. The Witch. I rewatched it very recently. 2015 folk horror movie directed by Robert Eggers. Robert Eggers. This is his first feature film. He then went on to make The Lighthouse with Robert Pattinson and The Northman, which I love. The Northman. I still yet to watch The Lighthouse, which is really bad. And I also know I'm gonna love it. I just, some movies you just never get around to watch for some reason. And he's also directing the upcoming Nosferatu remake. So, but yeah, The Witch is, first of all, stunning, like visually beautiful. There's so many shots that could be a painting. But The Witch follows a Puritan family in the 17th century in New England, and they get sort of banned from their plantation because of, I suppose, conflicting views of the gospel. Yeah, so they get banned. This family gets banned, and they have to sort of start from scratch and build their own little farm in this like clearing surrounded by the woods. It's very impressive how they just, I can't remember if they find like a pre-existing like building or, but anyway, they build their house from zero. They start their farm from zero. They're a big family, as it used to be in the olden days. So you have Anya Taylor-Joy, our protagonist, as the eldest sister. And then you have a brother, then you have twins, and then you have a baby boy. And yeah, the story, the action begins when Thomasin, Anya Taylor-Joy, loses essentially her baby brother while they were playing near the woods. But we very quickly discover that he wasn't lost, but he was abducted from a witch. And this is no spoiler; like the movie shows you right away. And I guess what I love about this movie is, first of all, it feels very, I'm not a historian, but it feels very accurate. It almost feels like watching a documentary, a folk, historical, like an historical documentary about a folk story about a witch and the witch in the woods and stuff like that. But also, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, but also because the movie shows you the witch in the woods so early on, you're sort of left to not really know where the story is going to go, or rather, you can imagine that the witch is gonna like haunt them. But there's more evil that is lurking than the witch. That's all I'm gonna say. So if you've never watched The Witch, please go ahead and give it a watch. Also a horror movie that defined, I want to say, a decade, and also defined a certain type of horror movies, especially with A24 and stuff. So yeah, The Witch. Moving on to something kind of in the vein of The Witch. This came out earlier though. It's a 2004 movie, The Village by M. Night Shyamalan. I've said in other videos that I quite like M. Night Shyamalan. I can totally, see how his movies are completely hit or miss. Some movies are really well done, I think, like The Village. Some other ones, I just take them, I don't know, as schlock, and I just have fun with it, like Trap, for example. Sorry, I have something in my eye. I went to the optometrist recently, and she said not to touch my eye at all, so really following doctor's advice here. Anyway, but yeah, I say in the same vein, because The Village is also, I think that is set more in the 19th century, but we're still following a sort of religious small community. In this case, it's a community, not a family. But yeah, this religious small community, very communal, communal eating. Communal eating. Yeah, they just go to church and stuff, and they wear like long dresses and bonnets, just to give you an image of it. And men wear like very old-timey clothes. And they also live in a clearing, and there's woods around it. And yeah, I guess the scary element is that every night, or every few nights, there are these humanoid creatures that come out at night, and so people really have to quickly get inside their houses because these monsters might attack them, and nobody knows who they are, nobody knows where they come from. It's a big mystery, okay? And nobody can go in the woods. The woods is full of monsters, and that's where these creatures live. But then one day, a guy, I don't remember how, but he gets hurt pretty badly. So our protagonist, this girl, she decides to essentially cross the woods to find, I guess, the closest city or town and ask for help, find a doctor. And M. Night Shyamalan is very famous for his twists, and this movie has a big twist that is famously hated. I disagree. I think it's great. I think it's a really cool twist. A bit unrealistic, maybe, or a bit complicated to execute. Doesn't matter. It's a movie. Like, I think it's really well, I mean, executed as in the thing that happens, not the plot itself, like visually, from a cinematographic point of view. Anyway, I really like The Village. I think it's fun. I haven't watched it in forever. That's why my memory of it is not the best. But when I sat down to do this list, it's one of the first movies that came up because I remember being just like in awe of the twist. Plus, I watched it as an adult, so all of these movies, I've watched as an adult, so I don't have like a not warped, but your perspective as a teen or preteen is different than when you're an adult. So this was The Village. So next I'm gonna cheat a little bit and throw in the whole Friday the 13th franchise. I think these movies can appeal to most people, even the people that say, oh, I don't like horror, I'm a scaredy cat, because there's not much to be scared of at all. So I love all the movies, apart from the 2009 reboot, legacy remake, whatever that was. It was horrible. And then I'm only missing, Freddy vs. Jason. And then from the canon, I guess, series, I'm missing, what am I missing? I'm missing part 7, Jason. No, that's a lie. I've seen that one. I'm missing part 8, The New Blood. No, part 7. Oh my gosh. I promise I know Roman numerals. I'm missing part 7, The New Blood. And then I'm missing Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. So apart from those two, which I'm sure they are just as campy and fun as the other ones, I've seen every other movie, and I love them all very much. I have to say, if you don't want to get into the lore, which is extremely inconsistent, but we're not here to discuss that. If I can suggest you one or two movies from the franchise that you can just extrapolate, knowing the very, very basics of who Jason is and what he does, I would suggest Jason X, which is Jason Goes to Space. So wacky, so fun. The deaths are really fun, and just the concept is ridiculous, even more ridiculous than the baseline ridiculousness. And then one that I watched semi-recently, part 8, part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Again, it's Jason, but he's on a boat most of the time, and he's going to New York. I'm gonna put the where does it come up? I'm gonna put the card for the Letterboxd review recap that I've done for last month, where I watched this movie. So give Friday the 13th a try. They're wacky, they're fun, they're popcorn movies. Watch them with a friend and have fun. After I blathered about Friday the 13th, I have to mention one of my favorite classic slashers, or probably my favorite classic slasher, 1974, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I I love this movie so much that I originally hated the sequel, which is really wacky, and I don't know, they leaned into silliness and campiness. I now appreciate it, but when I watched it the first time, I thought, how could they ruin such a cool and scary concept? Like, whatever. It was the 80s. Pretty sure it was the 80s by the time they did the sequel. I'm not gonna look it up now though. But yeah, so I'm really scary about watching. I'm really afraid of watching any other Texas Chainsaw Massacre remakes. I did watch Leatherface year back, which was supposed to be a bit of an origin story for Leatherface, but it was terrible. So I don't know. I'm not touching anything Texas Chainsaw Massacre apart from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, in case you've never seen it, it sounds really horrible, but I promise you it's actually not gory at all. I think it was a budget thing maybe, but they cut away from, you see something gory happening or starting or about to happen, but the camera cuts off and you just hear screams and you don't see much at all. If that's something you're afraid of. But a group of friends are on a road trip in the scorching heat of a Texan summer, and they break down the car. Very simple concept. The car breaks down and they need to go call for help. They go ask for help in the wrong house in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the countryside. And the scary thing about this movie is that exactly, the fact that it's summer, it's hot, it's sunny, like all this horror happens in broad daylight. And I think that's just so, like, it's so clever. Like it takes an extra effort to execute horror and give you that fear, in broad daylight, because it's much easier to create scary situations in the dark. And yeah, I think it still holds up to this day, even though it's a 70s movie. Some images are so beautiful and so well, like, orchestrated and put together, and the actual, like, backstory of Leatherface and the family is really horrific and very sad and very, like, unsettling. And it's one of those movies where, yes, Leatherface, I guess, is scary, but what's scarier is why he's the way he is and his family. In a way, it's almost given like Psycho. I'm not gonna say why, but if you've seen Psycho, you know why. But yeah, so I mean, now that I think about it, probably drew inspiration for that. But then it's an extremely different movie. But yeah, so if you wanna see scary, unsettling, you know, things happening broad daylight under the scorching heat of Texan summer, then give the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a try. Don't bother with any of the remakes. Yeah, okay. Jump into a slightly more recent movie, and by slightly more recent I mean 1999. The Blair Witch Project, absolute classic in its own genre. It didn't start the found footage genre by any means, but it popularized it. And again, very simple concept. Three friends set off to create this documentary about this Blair Witch that allegedly lives in the woods of, I can't remember where. So they go in the woods, filming stuff, and sorry, I could hear my neighbors. And then things escalate, things get worse, they get lost. I think that's the first horror, is that they get lost in the woods. And it's the 19th, so they don't have GPS, they don't have phones. Maybe they have like a cell phone, one of the early ones, but there's no reception or anything. So yeah, that is really horrifying in itself. A lot of people, what a lot of people like to say about the Blair Witch Project is that nothing happens and you can't see anything. I think that's the horror of it. You never see a creature, you never see a ghost, you never see a witch. But that's what's scary about it. That's what's scary about it, being lost in the woods with your friends at night and you hear things, you find things in the woods. That's scary. To me, that's really scary. And the fact that it's a found footage movie from the 90s gives it that extra layer of like, the grain of the film is like, you almost can see things in the film, and that's really like, I don't know, really scary. Yeah, I also like the bit of I don't know, history behind it, that when it came out people thought it was real, because if I'm not mistaken the actors in it are not professional actors, so people really thought that these three kids went missing in the woods. And I don't know, anyway, that's a really fun piece of like cinema history, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna be brief about this movie that I'm sure everybody and their mothers have seen. Midsommar. I don't know how to pronounce it in Swedish. Ari Aster, 2019. This was definitely my introduction to Ari Aster, because I'm pretty sure I watched Hereditary afterwards. But what to say? Perfect cult movie. You have a group of friends. There's more to it. There's like a girlfriend boyfriend dynamic that I'm not going to explore now, but it plays a big part in the movie. But the gist of it is that a group of friends gets invited by another friend. He's Swedish, so he's just inviting them back to Sweden for the Midsommar festival, just to spend some time together and experience his culture. So these like I think they're in college, or like these young adults, whatever. These people go, and yeah, not everything is what it seems, and things starts really lovely and everybody's really welcoming, but then there's more to it. And I mean, Ari Aster is very famous for his visuals, very like shocking, but also very like beautiful and artistic. And this movie has a lot of that for sure. But just like Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I think the horror of this movie is that it happens in broad daylight. If anything, even more than the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, because if I'm not mistaken, the Midsommar Festival happens when like the hours of sunlight are longer than the hours of nighttime. So, because I remember, I haven't watched this in a long time, but I remember when they like go to sleep, they have to like draw this like very very heavy curtains because it's still light outside. Yeah, and again, it's full of that feeling of we trusted wrong people. People are very welcoming and lovely, but something feels off. Just a modern classic, I dare to say. I mean, yeah. And I also think Midsommar is stronger than Hereditary. Hereditary is a very different story, but I thought Hereditary tried to do a lot of things at once. Let's say still very gripping and scary and visually appealing and all these things, but I thought that Midsommar had a more like straightforward, straight to the point goal, and yeah, they didn't get lost in other things. If that makes any sense to you, if you've watched both movies, let me know what you think about it. I should revisit both of them though, because my memory is a bit fuzzy. Moving on to something completely different, just like a bit of fun. This is the most recent. No, that's not true. There's another recent movie, but this is 2022, Bodies, 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 by, I'm not sure. But Bodies, Bodies, Bodies is, you have a group of rich kids in a mansion, and they decide to play a game called Bodies, 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 which is like I guess it's like a hide and seek type thing, but also mixed with what's that game with the traitor? Among Us type game. So the lights are off, but there's a killer, and so then somebody gets killed and you have to figure out who the killer is. It's like a party game. But things go wrong and somebody dies for real. But then you also figure out that things are not what they look like. This is just fun. It's very like, it echoes Scream in a certain way, because it's very like meta and is like very much making fun of a certain type of movie, and it's people called it very Gen Z. It is very Gen Z. It's very unserious, which I love. That clip, "You're the murderer. I know you're the murderer. You're no wait. What? How is it? You're the murderer. I knew it. You're such a bitch. You're such a fucking bitch." That audio went viral on TikTok, but I was obsessed with it before it went viral. No, that's not true. Anyway, I love saying that bit all the time to my boyfriend. It's just so funny. Yeah, if you just want to watch a modern, like recent movie that is just really funny, and also I love when modern movies that want to depict, Gen Z and stuff. I like when they do it in a very realistic and proper way. It's not like that meme of Mr. Burns, like, "Hello, fellow kids." Like, you can see that, I don't know, there was thought behind it, and I don't know. It's an actual portrayal of how kids would react. I mean, I say kids, but at this point, Gen Z is like, it's already a bit older, no? The people in the movie are like maybe late teens, early 20s, maybe early 20s. Anyway, great movie, a lot of fun, and we are down to 2 more movies. Let's go back to another classic, 1981, Sam Raimi, Evil Dead. I love it. I love it so much. I love the second one, and I've never seen Army of Darkness. Actually, I think I've said it in another video. But a bit cold. Evil Dead. What to say about it? So much fun. I guess it can be scary, but the effects are so like of its time that I don't know. It doesn't look that real. But I guess the atmosphere is great and gripping. A group of friends going to a cabin in the woods, and things happen. They awake an evil spirit, I suppose, that will do things. Things will unravel from that, and yeah, it's a very famous movie. So, but just in case I don't want to spoil anything for anyone. What to say? I guess, yeah, I love how it was done on such a small budget, like really, really small budget, but I think it delivered so much. And I guess it solidified in pop culture and that fear of going camping with your friends in a cabin and things will happen, and I don't know. Yeah, it's really fun. I did not like the remake, the 2013, I think, remake. But my boyfriend keeps telling me that it's actually really good, so maybe I should give it another watch. But yeah, Evil Dead, just solid demonic evil in the woods, in a cabin with friends. Don't separate, stick together, type of thing. Yeah, I love Evil Dead. Okay, if you're still here, comment. I never do this, but just for fun, if you're still here, comment a brown leaf. It's like autumn. How creative. But yeah, the last movie is the movie that has scared me the most to this day in my life. I've spoken about it before. Skinamarink 2022. I can never talk about Skinamarink without getting goosebumps, and that's what's happening right now, because it is honestly that unsettling and scary, and I would love to rewatch it, but at the same time I'm afraid that if I rewatch it, it will not be as scary as the first time I watched it. But Skinamarink is, let me just read this little caption that I prepared. a unique experimental horror film where two children find themselves trapped in their house as their father vanishes and their home begins to warp in their house begins to warp in inexplicable ways. Yeah, absolutely the scariest movie I've ever seen. It's another one of those movies where you can't see anything and nothing really happens. There's a lot of nothing. But the fear element to me is that this looks like an actual nightmare. Preparing for this movie, I read about the director Kyle Edward Ball and the writers and stuff. I think he also wrote it. I'm not sure, but basically they drew inspiration from an actual nightmare, recreating a real nightmare. And so there's a lot of the shots in this movie are all very odd. You can kind of see, there's these two kids and you can never kind of see them facing front. You can see like their feet while they're sitting on the sofa, or you can see them from the back when they're walking down a corridor. There's a lot of shots where you can just see like the light fixture on the wall, on the ceiling, or you can just see the telly, but like you never see the telly. You can just see like a little corner of it. So the shots are always like you're kind of like, I can never see really well, and so that's also unsettling, the fact that you're not getting the full picture of the room or what's happening in it. The film itself is so grainy. I think it was filmed on film. It's so incredibly grainy that kind of like the Blair Witch Project, you can kind of see things. You're constantly just like squinting and see figures and shadows, which is so scary to me. It's very effective to me. And then, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything else. Absolutely terrifying movie, nightmarish movie. Yeah, but I also know that a lot of people hated it, so I guess it's one of those polarizing movies. So let me know if you've ever watched Skinamarink, what you thought of it. Okay, we are now at the end of this video. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you still found it entertaining and useful, even though this will be published the day after Halloween. But yeah, let me know down below your favorite horror movies or your favorite horror movie, period, if you just have one that really sticks out to you. Yeah, and if you don't like horror movies, I'm sorry. Okay. I'm sending you a kiss, and I'll see you very soon. Bye bye.